You are what you eat, right? As the age-old saying goes, it is important to know what you're eating. Within the past 25 years, genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, have surfaced successfully in commercial farming companies. Corn and soybeans are the primary crops that are genetically modified. GMOs are created by taking part of a gene sequence from a crop and replacing it with a gene that eradicates either pests or weeds, so the plant grows to repel unwanted bugs. Farmers can use GMOs to cut down on the cost and dangers of using pesticides. This sounds too good to be true. Well, it may be. 5% of people in America have food allergies now, compared to the 2.5% in the 90s. Inflammatory bowel disease has also risen by 40% since the 90s, when GMOs were introduced to the public. Farmers that started giving their livestock GMO feed started to have problems on their farms with bloating, diarrhea, and loss of appetite in their animals. These doctor-evaluated symptoms are wildly similar to inflammatory bowel disease. GMOs may be causing this, along with many other relatively new environmental factors introduced in the past 25 years, such as overeating and forms of anorexia. These minor studies have so far been inconclusive, but they are a lead to something. Even the slightest doubt of health in food should be considered and tested, but tests are dependent upon the company that owns the GMO. So, as people have started to question the healthiness of GMO products, another minor feature that comes into play would be taste. To inform you about the woes of taste in common GMO foods, our proud sponsor, Chef Zachary. Hello and welcome. Today, in Zach's kitchen, we will make a GMO smoothie. GMOs are supposed to make food last longer, but at what cost? We'll find out today. So first, we're going to put our base in. Almond milk, which has soy in it. You only need, a little bit. It doesn't really matter, because this will taste bad. And then we will use our Bisquick pancake mix, which has starches and corn syrup. Now that we're halfway to making pancakes, let's keep going. I'm going to put some Pam cooking spray on. It is made from purely canola oil, which is most likely from GMO plants. Totally necessary. And we also have some cake icing, which is not quite an everyday use, but it still has many forms of corn syrup and canola oil. Now, why don't we throw in a bit of vegetable oil? It is just vegetable oil like soybean oil and canola oil, and that's about it. Maybe a little bit of olive oil. Next, we are going to include some Crystal Light drink mix. This seems common. This has starch, and starch is most likely from GMO products. There we go. And to add on to the powdered drinks, we are going to include some hot chocolate, which has soybean oil and corn syrup. Oops! Just a little bit too much there. And finally, we're going to be ending this off with some grape jelly, which has high fructose corn syrup. Okay, and we're going to add some Tic Tacs for just extra measure. Okay, Now that we got everything in, it looks like this needs a little bit more vegetable oil, so I'll add some in. There we go. Okay. I think we should puree this. That would be the best course of action. Of course, put the cap on for safety because you don't want the GMO smoothie flying into your face. That's looking good. Alright, so now let's pour this baby out. Here's my premium cup of GMO smoothie. Alright, so why don't we try this out a bit? It's probably going to be awful. I know it's going to be awful, but it's for the sake of science. Well, I can tell you right now, it tastes terrible. And GMOs taste much worse than regular food. Yeah, that's really something. In all seriousness, do GMOs taste better or worse? GMOs actually can be engineered to taste better, but they are grown in huge commercial fields. So by the time, say, corn gets to your dinner table, it just couldn't compare to freshly picked corn on the cob. Okay, so these are only first world problems, worrying about taste or minor health effects. GMOs could be used for developing countries that are suffering from famine and starvation. Staying nourished and alive is much more important than some trivial stomach problems. People in the third world would benefit greatly from GMO crops because it is an affordable source of nutrition for people in need. The problem is that GM crops are owned by the industries, not the government. Anything that is changed about GMOs would be by the company's will. So where they bring their crops is entirely up to them. If they want to label GMOs, they would, but they haven't. The major GMO companies are so opposed to writing a few extra letters on the packaging. And that has transferred to the major food production companies that use the GMOs in their food. They would rather keep their customers oblivious to the contents of their food instead of advertising what their food really is. This stubbornness has caused genetically modified products to skyrocket in sales. Upwards of 70% of processed foods have GMOs in your local supermarket. In fact, some brands are labeling the foods that aren't GMOs in order to provide a clearer alternative for people who want a choice of their food. Before we know what the long-term effects of GMOs are, many will continue to support this mysterious industry without even knowing it. In conclusion, GMOs can possibly have an impact on one's health. The effects of GMOs will not truly be known until solid studies are performed with accuracy. GMOs can provide to those who cannot afford other foods, potentially helping to solve world hunger. GMOs have had a positive effect on the economy. But until we learn the true effects of GMOs, we will continue to be statistics for a worldwide experiment.